Hello, my name is Jennifer, and I am going to speak a little bit about effective leadership and what it means to me. Throughout this course, we've learned a lot about effective leadership and different leadership theories and styles. But the one that means the most to me is that of a servant leader. When I think of effective leadership, I think of those people in my life who have given me examples of what servant leadership means. I think of a couple in our church who sing of the faithfulness of God and continue in work and volunteering in the midst of losing their son to suicide. That's effective leadership. When you can, by example, show God's faithfulness by being faithful yourself to the calling that God's placed within you, regardless of the circumstances. That is effective leadership. I think of a youth pastor who showed by example perseverance and teaching his young people how to stay the course and keep the faith regardless of what was going on around him. I think of a pastor and his wife who would always do big events, and instead of just giving a list to their staff of what needed to be done, when you looked around, they were there taking down the chairs and setting up the tables. That is effective leadership. I think of um, a pastor who was burdened with a message, but yet continued and struggled with it all week and was faithful to God and delivered the message regardless of what it cost him to do so. That is faithful leadership. I think of a couple who she dealt with intense pain and was faithful to children's ministry and would ride the bus and pick up kids every week, regardless of the pain she was feeling in her body. That is effective leadership. I think of a friend who had a time in her life when she had 3 different abortions, a time before she knew the Lord, and when she got saved, she pushed past the shame and was healed and was able to minister to other women who have had similar experiences. That is effective leadership. I think of Bill Wilson in Metro Ministries in New York, who, regardless of how many times he's been mugged or shot at or all the difficulties he's faced, to continue to drive a bus and pick up kids and to expand his ministry around the world, even into countries where Christianity is not popular, because he sees the need to pick up children and to duplicate and multiply ministry for those that are wounded and broken and need someone. That is effective leadership. I think of Billy Graham, who was faithful to God, faithful to his family, faithful to his wife, who would not compromise in any form or fashion. That is effective leadership, and the legacy that he's left behind, and the people that have been saved, and the ministries that have sprung up because of his example. That is effective leadership. I think of people who've poured into my own life, that regardless of difficulties that they face in their own life, regardless of hardships, their goal was to multiply and to fulfill the Great Commission in the lives of others. That is effective leadership. I think about in the scripture where the Apostle Paul, who would pour his life into so many cities and people, grounding them in the faith so that they would grow and do likewise and multiply. I believe that's what God calls us to in effective leadership, is to multiply ourselves. What He's placed in us, then we pour into others so that they can do the same. And that is exponential multiplication. I think that's what God calls us to when He says, go and make disciples. It's a multiplication. I don't think He does things just in addition. I think He does it in multiplication so that great leaders multiply great leaders and invest in the lives of others. To me, that is effective leadership when you're willing to give your life to others so that they can in turn learn how to be great leaders. I think of Jesus, the greatest example of servant leadership, who was willing to lay down his life and to call those people into his circle to disciple and to teach and train by example. He walked with them. He showed them simple things. He told them about the fig tree. He taught them about the fields being widened to harvest. He used everyday examples to impart biblical truth into their lives. That was effective leadership. Those disciples, both the men and the women, turned the world upside down. And we are still reaping the benefits and gaining what they poured into others. They changed the world. And so I would say that Jesus was an example of effective leadership. And that is what He's called us to invest our lives into others so that they can, in turn, fulfill their destiny that God has placed within them, and to win souls, make disciples, advance the kingdom, and turn the world upside down. That is effective leadership.